Hi, I'm Taylor Ullom with Guitars for Vets. I'm an Air Force veteran, and I'm a CGO.
Always saying guitars are playing a part of who we are. Got a cool job, but there's so much more to the chairman and women of the pedal board. You're a CGO, Chief Guitar Officer.
The show where success meets guitar. Welcome to Chief Guitar Officer. I'm Judd Silver.
And I'm Scott Haidt. Judd, would you agree that the guitar can be a real healing instrument?
Absolutely. I think it's a very powerful healing tool. I always think of it as like 6 strings this way, 14 frets, give or take a few this way. And there's just a lot of mystery and depth to it and so many layers. Music scientifically has been proven to be healing in many different cases.
I think, when you're playing the guitar, something happens with your brain. Like you are somewhere else when you're doing it. The vibrations.
Our guest today is doing incredible work with respect to this. They have an organization called Guitars for Vets that's particularly aimed at helping U.S. military veterans overcome trauma, PTSD, really terrible negative experiences by putting guitars in their hands.
Absolutely. And I think we get to hear the stories of how some of these people that were struggling with things, actually, it helped them tremendously to learn to play the guitar.
A really interesting and important conversation.
So, Judd, who's our guest today?
Our guest today is with Guitars for Vets. Her name is Taylor Ullom, and she is a CGO.
Air Force veteran, musical healer, passionate advocate, and CGO. Taylor Ullom, welcome to Chief Guitar Officer.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you. It's
Taylor,
great to see you. Taylor, what are you up to today?
Lots of traveling. So everything I do sort of centers around guitars and traipsing the globe. I don't think I have a life outside of that.
So, Guitars for Vets, tell us about the mission, the history.
2007 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a Vietnam veteran named Dan Van Buskirk and a guitar player, Patrick Nenesheim, they just got to talking, and Dan said, I'd always wanted to learn to play guitar, but with my PTSD, I just don't think that that's even possible. And Patrick is such a kind soul. And he said, well, let's give it a try. Well, after just a couple of weeks of doing this, they realized that this experience was doing more than just teaching Dan how to play guitar. It was truly impacting his life across the board. And so from that small act of kindness in 2007, here we are in 2024, 150 chapters nationwide, a cyber program, near 10,000 graduates. It's universal. This is music. This is healing through the best possible resource, which is, in my opinion, guitar. I came into this experience in 2016. Like you mentioned, I am a veteran. I'm also a disabled veteran with a PTSD diagnosis myself. Guitar playing, I grew up with. Actually, I was very passionate about guitar from birth. My first memory being I wanted to touch a guitar. And growing up, the only blonde, blue-eyed musical freak in the family, I stuck out like a sore thumb. But it wasn't until I was older that I found out it's because my birth father was a Vietnam vet who succumbed to PTSD when I was 3. So I really didn't have any memory of him, except that I think that memory of wanting to touch the guitar. Because the first picture I saw of him, blonde, blue-eyed, holding a guitar. And that was the moment I realized, wow, that was my person. I grew up without my person. And, I'll never know his favorite song or his style of music or anything like that. And it kind of left a pretty significant hole in my heart and in my life. It's hard to explain to people what it's like to grow up without half of your identity, especially music. I feel like that's even a little bit more profound that we would have had that thread in common. That was sort of a wound that I carried throughout life. I'm also an MST survivor in the military sexual assault trauma, but I'm not a combat veteran. Having said that, it's very easy to dismiss trauma. And in 2015, life was tanking pretty hard with losing people all around me. And I just decided, I had to find a way to combat the 22-a-day statistic In doing so, I just thought, well, I'll teach veterans how to play guitar. I Googled free guitar lessons for veterans and up popped Guitars for Vets. And that's where I saw their mission was to put the healing power of music in the hands of our heroes through guitar lessons. And since then, I've realized this wasn't even about lessons. This is about restoring purpose, passion, joy, and community back into the life of a veteran. So here I am from 2016 on, thinking I'm doing great. I'm doing awesome. I'm helping all these veterans, and I'm really hearing so many stories. But then in 2021, I get hit with the PTSD diagnosis. And what I learned was, like, in hindsight, yeah, that was pretty obvious. I guess I've just been spending this whole time trying to outserve my own struggles. So it was in working with other veterans that I was able to realize, like, oh, I have this issue too.
So that 22 a day statistic that you mentioned, that's suicide.
Yes, it is.
When you found this organization and you came to it, could you talk just a little bit about what the actual activities, what types of things you get involved in and how you engage?
So we are, in most locations, a VA referral program. And what that means is a veteran is being seen at the VA hospital or in the local community for usually mental health issues or some physical ailments that is associated to their military experience. When they get a referral to us, we provide them with the practice equipment. So they get a whole guitar, case, cable, tuner, strings, the works. They have everything they need to be immersed in this experience. And then we just have a conversation. Hey, what's your 5 favorite songs? What are your 5 favorite bands? What kind of music do you like? So immediately we're in a safe space. We're not talking about your trauma, your wounds, or, where you went to battle or anything. We're just talking about music. And that immediately lights up, I think, a certain part of your brain,
Absolutely.
From there, we create individualized lessons. So no veteran gets the same experience coming through because we're dealing with a significant piece of the population here that has all kinds of traumatic brain injuries or, memory issues, or they're dealing with cancer treatments and neuropathy. So it's important that we individualize these lessons. And the first thing I notice when a veteran comes to me is I will actually look at their hands, and their hands will tell me everything I need to know.
Wow.
Are they biting their fingernails? Are their hands shaking? Are they clenching their fist? Are they, how relaxed are they? You can tell a lot by a person's hands. And so I do my best to put them at ease and say, listen, you're not here to please me. This isn't about what I want out of this experience. This is about what you want out of this experience. And I razz them a little, like, you'll get out of it what you put into it, and you can't fake guitar playing. So I'll check your fingers every week. Like, I'll know.
Right. That's right.
If you're not complaining about blisters on your fingers,
right.
You're not doing it right.
So truly taking this heavily traumatic, unbelievably traumatic experience and turning it into a very positive thing.
Right. So we go through 10 weeks of that. And at the end of the 10 weeks, we try to get them to play a song. It's not mandatory, but it helps the practicing to know that at the end of the 10 weeks, we're going to have a little recital there in front of your friends and families just to celebrate you've learned a new skill, you've gained a new community, you've done something significant. And in doing so, we award them with a brand new guitar, usually like a TCAL case, a Hercules stand, a Kaiser caper, Gibson strings and picks, and, the works. They get the works. And now our goal from here on is to keep them coming back. How can we keep you coming back? You've got a new skill. Let's keep growing the skill. More importantly, how can we keep you engaged in your community? Because what we often see is that when a veteran comes to us, we may be the first person that week just saying, hey, Judd, how you doing? How's life going?
Right,
and it's a pretty significant thing to feel seen by somebody, to have somebody say, I'm happy to see you.
And feel safe.
Yeah.
Taylor, on that point, I think it's tremendous what you're doing for vets. It's incredible. As you've now been involved for so long, what are you seeing as some results that have come out of it? Have you seen What's some of the after story with some of these people that have learned to play? Like you were mentioning the community.
It's unbelievable, quite honestly. On the surface, what you see is somebody's learned how to play guitar. What we hear is my husband used to lock himself in the bedroom and we would never see him. And now he comes out in the living room and he plays music for us. He's teaching our daughter how to play guitar. We've had veterans say, I used to run and just go pick up a glass of alcohol. Like I didn't know what else to do. Now I go pick up my guitar. We hear success stories. Like one of my guys, he was almost killed in a mechanic accident working on an airplane. So he shared that we just happen to live right next to the airbase. When he hears or sees the planes flying around, that is a trigger for his PTSD symptoms. And in the past, he would have major panic attacks. And he goes, now I just go and I pick up my guitar and I'm not even thinking about the airplanes. And so what happens, the psychology, the biology, the neurology behind all of this is when you pick up and you play your guitar, it pulls you out of fight or flight and into like the parasympathetic part of your brain, and it helps relax you, and it's up against your vagus nerve system. And so I geek out on that stuff because I tell people, please do not judge your success by not getting that chord, or you didn't learn that song as fast as you wanted to. You were actually healing your body when you play this instrument.
Wow. That's really incredible. Take us back just a step before that. What is, going back to your personal history, what is your earliest memory of how important or impactful the guitar was to you?
Since birth, like I can't breathe without guitar. I'm a military brat also. I traveled the world every 3 years. I had a new home, a new identity, a new school, new friends. That was really hard. The one thing that was always consistent in my life was there was always a guitar nearby. That was always my identity. Music. Everybody knew I loved music. But it wasn't until I was a sophomore in high school. Picture this, Okinawa, Japan, of all places.
Wow.
And I always tell people I learned to play from drunk Marines because back in the day, like we had like one channel, the AFN network. There was nothing else to do. You can only watch so many episodes of MASH. And we would go over to each other's houses. And I had this boyfriend that took me home one night to meet his parents, and his dad pulled out a 12-string guitar, and nothing else existed after that. And I ran and I got my guitar, and he showed me C, D, G chords. And he said, now you have everything you need to know about learning to play guitar.
That's all you need.
Yeah. So I think my first song he taught me was My Dingaling.
There you go.
So all the popular songs you can play in public. But yeah. And then from then on, I was never seen without a guitar.
Yeah. Chuck Berry's never a bad starting place,
Never.
right?
Taylor, we see hanging behind you a lot of friends.
I know. Each one has such a story.
Pick one with a great story.
They all have great stories. All right, I'll tell you one. My Taylor. This is my first Taylor guitar, acoustic. It's a 214 CE Deluxe Beauty. This will always be so special to me, and hopefully I can tell this story without crying. So my first year in starting this chapter, I had to go seek out some volunteers, and one guy that came to mind, I'd played in the church band one time with, and I remember he leaned over and said, you can also do a C chord like this. And at the time I was so inexperienced, and I was just like, oh, you're one of those guys. Fast forward 10 years later, and I'm like, hey, do you want to come and do this program with me? And he was like, absolutely, yes. Well, the only guitar I really had at the time was this little black Washburn that I bought myself in the Air Force. And it looks like I thought Richie Sambora's black guitar and wanted dead, or it didn't look anything like that. But in my mind, it did. In fact, it's hanging like right there. My baby is never far away.
Sure. Yeah. It's classic.
And I was going through like getting divorced and my kid deploying. I was going through so many really hard life things, but I was focused on this work. And we had a little meeting one day. Just so happens this day was my birthday. And in the conclusion of the meeting, they go, hey, we have something for you. And he flicks over this little teeny tiny box. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I open it and it's a pic. And it says Taylor. And I go, huh, that's funny. Where's the rest of it? And he goes, funny, you should mention that. And we're in a public coffee shop, man. I was like, no. Like, don't do this. I'm too fragile right now. To say I ugly cried was an understatement. I ugly cried so hard. And the reason for that being, like I had mentioned, I grew up not knowing my birth father, but his name was Daryl Taylor. And I was Peggy Taylor when I was born, adopted Peggy Fry. Taylor became my professional name because it's way cooler. But I had always wanted a Taylor guitar because at some point when I learned my last name was Taylor, I had associated James Taylor as my dad. In my mind, that was my dad. And so I grew up loving his music. Then I learned about Taylor guitars, but they're always just sort of out of my price range. Or when you have kids, you know, you're more focused on them. I didn't worry about spoiling myself with guitars. So they hand me this guitar and I'm just floored. And I come home and I cry some more. But I sit down and I send this gentleman an email and I said, here's what you don't know. I grew up without my father. He was a guitar player. His last name was Taylor. I'd always wanted a Taylor guitar. You know, this means the world to me. You have no idea. And then he emails back, well, now I'm ugly crying. The next day, he spent 5 hours straight playing music with me. When I tell you straight, we did not stop to drink. We did not stop to go to the bathroom. It was just like, and this song, and this song, and this song. And when I got home that evening, I remember sitting down and just feeling in my heart. I was like, what is this? What is this weird feeling? And I hear in my head healing. And then I started ugly crying again, man, because I was like, oh, that's what it would have been like to play with my dad.
Wow, man.
So
that's beautiful.
Beautiful.
And if I can share, this was my dad.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what I learned in all of this is we don't solve our problems by taking our life. We pass them on.
Thank you for sharing that.
2021, I had to come face to face with a decision like that. And it was my kids seeing me at my worst. And I thought, you know, I can't go out like this. They've seen me at my worst. And I made a very public commitment to heal and become the best version of myself. And in doing so, I shared my diagnosis when I was absolutely at my worst because I wanted people to know they're not alone. And I've been an advocate ever since for, you know, what does it mean to have PTSD? What does that look like? And how can I hold a safe space for somebody when I can't fix their problems? And even doing so, my daughter just became closer to me in performing. And so now we go around and we perform. Everybody likes the mother-daughter harmonies. But she's a great advocate for the family side of the house. How does seeing your mom play guitar and be in this community, like, how does that impact the family? And back to your point, what do we see? We see families healing. It's not just the vet. You can't heal the vet if you don't help their family heals also. So it's been very impactful. It's a life I never imagined for myself.
No, you're doing incredible work, and it's really, like you said, impactful. And that's what we're trying to put forth, is so that people understand this, and you know that there are resources and tools available, and people that care like yourself. Where do people find you? What is the best way to contact and get involved if people are interested? I
will just say right up front, we need a lot of involvement. We need a lot of support. We need a lot of champions, because for every graduate that we have, there's like 2 or 3 veterans in their place, because they're our greatest advertisement, you know. As a veteran, if another vet comes to me and says, hey, go try out this program, I'm like, oh, I'm going. So we have rapidly grown in the past few years. Where you can find us is go to guitarsforvets.org. That's our main website. There you can find where our chapters are located nationwide and in the U.S. territories, so like Puerto Rico and the islands. We also have lots of social media presence. So you can go to almost any social media platform and look for Guitars for Vets. More specifically on Facebook, if you can find a chapter in your area, for example, I'm in Nebraska, you can type in Guitars for Vets Nebraska and find our local chapter and contact the chapter person that way. info@guitarsforvets.org is a great email to reach out for any involvement. If you want to be a donor, sponsor, participant, volunteer, start a chapter. Those are good places to start.
Taylor, you really have proven and shown like the guitar is like a symbol of hope for a lot of people. And I think it's just incredible. And you've been a wonderful guest. And we're so glad you were here to share your story and bring awareness to your cause.
Thank you so much, because for every platform, somebody's listening, somebody knows somebody that's a veteran. And I will tell you, it's the ones that walk around pretending they're the strongest that you should worry about the most. So if they're busy taking care of everybody else, they're not busy taking care of themselves. So please check on your strong people too.
Good advice.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Taylor.
Thanks,
Thank
Taylor.
you, Scott. Thank you, Judd. This has been so great. I love your show.
That's our show. Thanks for watching. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Check us out on all the socials at Chief Guitar Officer.
And we want you on the show. Go to chiefguitarofficer.com, look for the section called You're a CGO, send us your video, and be featured on a future episode. Just like this.
Hey there, this is Steve Bello. I'm a guitar teacher at Music and Arts, as well as a private instructor from Ramsey, New Jersey. This is my Ibanez Universe Steve Vai 7-string, and I'm a Chief Guitar Officer.